Good morning, everyone. This morning, before we actually begin Parliament, we have a brief ceremony to allow Her Excellency the Governor to present instruments of appointment to the new Leader of the Opposition and the new Deputy Leader of the Opposition. I want to welcome Her Excellency and to thank her for taking time out of her busy morning to come and carry out this very brief ceremony. Your Excellency.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for presiding over this important moment for us this morning. And I wanted to say, first of all, to our current and outgoing Honourable Leader of the Opposition, the Honourable Roy McTaggart, MP, thank you, sir, for your great service in this role, for your professionalism and for your collaborative approach, which I think is a real testament to the very well-functioning democratic principles of this House. So thank you very much. I've greatly enjoyed working with you. And a huge congratulations to the Honourable Joey Hugh, MP, as you take over this extremely important role, sir, as the Leader of the Opposition. So I'd like to invite you to come forward so that I can present to you the instrument of appointment. Congratulations, sir. Is that it? And I very much look forward to working together with you, sir. And I understand and have now received notification that our new Leader of the Opposition, Honourable Leader of the Opposition, intends to appoint the Honourable Ms. Barbara Connolly as the Honourable Deputy Leader of the Opposition. So could I invite you, ma'am, to come and receive your instrument of appointment? Congratulations to you, and look forward very much to working together.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Congratulations to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, the new Honourable Leader of the Opposition, Joey Hugh, and Honourable Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Ms. Barbara Connolly. Again, thank you, Your Excellency, for agreeing to carry out this very brief but important ceremony as we transition from one Leader of the Opposition to another. Another clear indication of, as you said, Your Excellency, the well-functioning democratic processes in this beautiful country of ours. Thank you. Good morning. May I invite the Honorable Premier to lead us in prayers?
Good morning and thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let us pray. Almighty God, from whom all wisdom and power are derived, we beseech thee so to direct and prosper the deliberations of Parliament now assembled, that all things may be ordered upon the best and surest foundations for the glory of thy name and for the safety, honor, and welfare of the people of these islands. Bless our sovereign, King Charles III, William, Prince of Wales, and all the royal family. Give grace to all who exercise authority in our Commonwealth, that peace and happiness, truth and justice, religion and piety may be established among us. Especially we pray for the governor of our islands, the Premier, the Speaker of Parliament, the Leader of the Opposition, ministers of the Cabinet, ex-officio members, to be enabled faithfully to perform the responsible duties of our high office. All this we ask for thy great name's sake. Let us say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face shine upon us, and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon us, and give us peace now and always. The Lord bless the members of the Parliament, the Honourable Chief Justice, the members of the judiciary, that they too will be enabled to faithfully perform the responsible duties of this high office. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Madam Clerk, would you please read the proclamation summoning this meeting of the Parliament?
Proclamation number 2 of 2024 by Her Excellency Jane Owen, Governor of the Cayman Islands, whereby Section 83(1) of the Constitution of the Cayman Islands provides that the sessions of the Parliament of the Cayman Islands shall be held at such places and begin at such times as the Governor may from time to time by proclamation appoint. Now therefore I, Jane Owen, Governor of the Cayman Islands, by virtue of the powers conferred upon me by Section 83(1) of the Constitution of the Cayman Islands, hereby proclaim that a session of the Parliament of the Cayman Islands shall begin and be held at the House of Parliament, Georgetown, Grand Cayman, at 10 a.m. on the 7th day of October 2024, and shall thereafter continue until such date and time as the Parliament may adjourn thereto. Given under my hand and the public seal of the Cayman Islands at Georgetown in the island of Grand Cayman, this 19th day of September, in the year of our Lord 2024, in the third year of the reign of His Majesty King Charles III.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Administration of oaths or affirmations.
May I invite Mr. Eric Bush, the Acting Honourable Deputy Governor responsible for the portfolio of the Civil Service, to come forward and make the oath of allegiance and due execution of office to allow him to become the temporary ex officio member of the Parliament in the absence of the Deputy Governor. Mr. Bush. Members, please stand.
I, Eric Bush, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III, his heirs and successors, according to law. So help me God. I, Eric Bush, do swear that I will well and truly serve His Majesty King Charles III, his heirs and successors, and the people of the Cayman Islands in the office of ex officio member of Parliament, so help me God.
Honorable Bush, may I congratulate you on your temporary appointment and to welcome you in that role as the temporary ex officio member to this Parliament.
Read by the Honourable Speaker of Messages and Announcements.
I have received apologies for this sitting from the Honourable Deputy Governor, Franz Manderson, and from the Honourable Wayne Panton, the member for Newlands.
Presentation of petitions.
None.
Presentation of papers and of reports. Civil Aviation Authority of the Cayman Islands Annual Report 2023, Excellence and Innovation in Aviation Regulations, fiscal year ended the 31st of December 2023, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Deputy Premier.
I recognize the Honourable Deputy Premier.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the Civil Aviation Authority of the Cayman Islands Annual Report 2023, entitled Excellence and Innovation in Aviation Regulation for the fiscal year ended 31 December 2023.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Deputy Premier wish to speak thereto?
Just very briefly, Mr. Speaker, to thank the staff of the Civil Aviation Authority, ably and expertly led by Mr. Richard Smith, Director General. Their work is exemplary, their contacts are exemplary, the way they support the industry is exemplary, and the way that they regulate is exemplary. Thank them all.
Very well.
Cayman Islands Stock Exchange report for the fiscal year ended 31st of December 2023, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Deputy Premier.
I recognize the Honourable Deputy Premier.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the Cayman Islands Stock Exchange report for the fiscal year ending 31 December 2023.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Deputy Premier wish to speak thereto?
Only briefly, sir, to thank the staff and the board. The Cayman Islands Stock Exchange is led by the Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Marco Archer. This is a very nimble organization that provides a dividend to the government and provides an additional tool in financial services. I had the honor of traveling throughout Asia with the CEO, Marco Archer, who's expanding market share. So I expect even a more glowing report in 2024, but I thank the staff for all their work in 2023.
Very well.
Health Services Authority 2023 Annual Report, reinforcing our dedication to our mission, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness.
I recognize the Honourable Minister for Health and Wellness.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the Health Services Authority 2023 Annual Report, reinforcing our dedication to our mission.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak thereto?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, in accordance with Section 52(8) of the Public Management and Finance Act 2020 revision, I am pleased to present to this Honourable House the annual report and audited financial statements of the Cayman Islands Health Services Authority for the 12-month ending the 31st of December 2023. The Health Services Authority, or HSA, is a statutory body established as an authority on the 1st of July 2002 under the Health Services Authority law. The purpose of the authority is to provide healthcare services in the Cayman Islands in accordance with the National Health Strategy and Plan prepared by the Cayman Islands government. Accordingly, Mr. Speaker, HSA provides primary and secondary care through the 127-bed Cayman Islands Hospital on Grand Cayman, 18-bed Faith Hospital on Cayman Brac, and a host of community-based service facilities such as Smith Road Medical Center, Baytown House, Georgetown General Practice Clinic, West Bay Health Center, Boddentown Health Center, East End Health Center, Northside Health Center, Public Health Department, Lions Eye Clinic, Georgetown Dental Clinic, Marin's Dental Clinic, Cayman Brac Dental Clinic, and Little Cayman Clinic. Beginning by outlining the highlights of the 2023 annual report, Mr. Speaker, there are 5 strategic priorities which guides the authority's mission to provide the highest quality of health care and improve the well-being of the people of the Cayman Islands through accessible, sustainable, and patient-focused services. Strategic Priority 1 relates to patient and staff experience. The authority, Mr. Speaker, continued their journey towards achieving Joint Commission International JCI accreditation, focusing on safety, quality of care, infection control, and medication management. Mr. Speaker, at this time, I would like to once again congratulate the Health Services Authority for achieving the JCI accreditation in May of 2023. HSA also expanded their patient services department to include a dedicated call center team to promote access and make navigating services much easier. They implemented purposeful hourly rounding, which is a proactive approach to patient care that includes nurses checking in on their patients at least once every hour, checking 4 critical aspects of care: pain, positioning, personal needs, and proximity of personal items. Mr. Speaker, I am proud to announce that HSA achieved 88.5% satisfaction rating across all departments in 2023, following patient surveys up from 85.9% the previous year. Strategic Priority 2 relates to clinical capabilities and core services. HSA offers the most comprehensive health care with 53 core services ranging from neonatal intensive care to geriatrics. In fact, last year, HSA introduced geriatric medical care to address the needs of our aging Caymanian population to ensure that they have access to specialist care when they need it. In 2023, HSA acquired radio frequency ablation, or RFA, which is a cutting-edge medical technology that offers minimal invasive alternatives treatments to patients and help with pain management. RFA is one type of treatment for cancer that uses heat to kill cancer cells, control their growth, or control symptoms. Mr. Speaker, as you will be aware, mental health is a growing concern in our community, especially amongst our children and young people. They need access to spaces that are appropriate and child-friendly. In conjunction with the Ministry of Health and Wellness and the Alex Panton Foundation, Alex's Place, the Youth Mental Health Hub, was launched in January of 2023. It provides support to residents ages 10 to 20 from Monday to Friday for now. The HSA increased their clinical capabilities in dental care and saw nearly 10,000 more visits when compared to 2022. That saw 27,906 visits in 2022 compared to 37,861 visits in 2023. which also boosted HSA's revenues. I am pleased to announce, Mr. Speaker, that the Authority won 7 awards in the Best of Cayman Islands 2023 awards. They won gold for Best Chiropractor, Oncologist, Occupational Therapy and Urgent Care Walk-in Clinic, and silver for Behavioral Mental Health Treatment, Pediatrician, and Speech Therapy. Waiting times in general practice have decreased by 10% between triage and consultation, improving patient access to primary care and possibly impacting on a reduction in need for secondary levels of care. Mr. Speaker, additional initiatives that progressed in 2023 to improve access to care and services included expanding capacity at the Smith Road Medical Center by introducing additional clinics on Saturdays. This initiative helped to support an additional 2,477 patients who may have otherwise not been able to attend clinics during the typical working week. The emergency room operations included an additional 5 nurses for triage, 6 registered nurses, and 3 healthcare assistants. By increasing clinical capacity and extending operating room procedures for an additional week in December, the HSA was also able to complete an additional 48 surgical procedures, including 18 medical procedures prior to the Christmas holidays, which I am sure contributed positively to patients' peace of mind during the holidays. Strategic priority 3 is talent attraction and retention, and this speaks to the government's first strategic broad outcome, which is including quality of life for Caymanians. Not only is the HSA improving lives through the provision of services, it also improving quality of life through employment opportunities. The HSA continues to be one of the highest single employers in the Cayman Islands, with almost 1,200 employees, of whom I am proud to say, Mr. Speaker, over 52% are Caymanians. We look at the new cohort of clinical staff, and over 50% of these new hires are Caymanians. In 2023, a new director of nursing, Dr. Sharon Radcliffe, was appointed with over 30 years' experience. A total of 63 colleagues were promoted, 37 of whom are Caymanians, including the appointment of Ms. Rachel Sutherland to the senior management position of Director of Support Services. As you can see, Mr. Speaker, the Authority is focused on employing and upskilling a Caymanian healthcare workforce and ensuring that our people have a bright future in healthcare. The Authority carried out an institutional upskilling of staff from housekeeping to frontline staff, doctors, nurses, allied health professionals, and administrative staff to learn about best practices, patient-centered care, and maintaining a safe environment. There was also $2 million allocation to continuing education opportunities. Medical professionals also have access to the latest knowledge and technologies. Strategic priority 4 relates to infrastructure. To improve service delivery and the HSA commitment to transformation, in 2023, operating theaters in Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac were renovated, and the A&E was expanded to meet increasing need, all while providing 24/7 care. HSA expanded clinical capacities by reallocating the administration team to Citrus Grove, allowing for greater expansion of bed capacity at the hospital. They also converted the previous orthopedic department into consultation room for expanding needs of urgent care. The main hospital and district clinics were repainted, and the nursing stations were replaced by designing them to cater to ergonomic needs of staff. On Little Cayman, a standby generator was donated by the R3 Cayman Foundation to the health center to help ensure uninterrupted power supply during hurricane season. Strategic priority 5 is technology, which helps to drive efficiency and provide patient-centered care. Mr. Speaker, 2023 saw the full integration of Oracle Fusion to ensure a cohesive interface with the existing Cerner system. Barcode scanning capabilities were introduced to optimize inventory management and reduce errors in medication administration. The integration also enables comprehensive patient data management, improving clinical decision support and overall workflow efficiencies. Implementing Cerner also enables patients to access the online payment portal and receive emails reminding them of appointments, reducing missed appointment rates. Moving to our sister islands, Mr. Speaker, a top priority is to improve access to care and service both in the BRAC and Little Cayman. The following upgrades and initiatives were carried out in 2023. They are JCI accreditation for both Faith Hospital and Little Cayman Health Center, renovation of the operating theater at Faith Hospital, a new clinical rotation program between Faith Hospital and the main campus to foster professional development and collaboration among healthcare providers. The public health and community health services were relocated to the medical wing at Aston Rutty Center, providing a dedicated space for these services with capacity to expand. A new dedicated registered nurse for community health to expand the home visits offer to patients in Cayman BRAC. A full-time psychologist and community psychology nurse to enhance behavioral health services, offering more comprehensive mental health care, and in response to a growing need, a second dialysis nurse was employed to ensure increasing demand for dialysis services can be met. A visiting nephrologist also cares for patients in Cayman BRAC so that they do not have to travel to Grand Cayman at all. Turning our attention now, Mr. Speaker, to public health. In 2023, HSA worked closely with the Ministry of Health and Wellness to develop a registry for non-communicable disease, a critical tool to guide public health policies, identifying trends, and allocate resources more effectively. Health promotion activities address the health implications of smoking, the importance of a balanced and nutritious diet, the management and prevention of diabetes, the risks related to hypertension and other chronic diseases. The authority administered over 3,200 doses of the influenza vaccine and rolled out effective vaccination programs that contributed significantly to controlling diseases such as tuberculosis and COVID-19. By collaborating with the Mosquito Research and Control Unit, MRCU, the Department of Environmental Health, DEH, and the Cayman Islands Molecular Biology Lab, HSA effectively managed vector-borne diseases like dengue fever. I would like to provide a snapshot of HSA's achievements in 2023, Mr. Speaker, as they play an indelible role in our community. These were the integration of advanced technologies, inpatient care, and experience, benchmarking of operations against international standards with the achievement of JCI accreditation, the introduction of new specialist services, meeting demands of innovation and specialist health care among a growing population, and going above and beyond in the execution of HSA's mandate. Turning our attention now to HSA's audited financial statements for 2023. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to inform the public and members of this House that the Auditor General's report for the audited financial statements presented an unqualified opinion on HSA's financial statements for the period ending the 31st of December 2023. In other words, the financial statement presents fairly in all material aspects. Furthermore, the financial position of the authority as of the 31st of December 2023, its financial performance and its cash flows for that year were in accordance with international financial reporting standards. It was declared that the authority recorded a total revenue of $176,807,029 from the government's program, patient service fees, and other sources. Additionally, the total operating expenditures reported were $183,899,254 and reported a net loss of $7,092,225. Mr. Speaker, the total current assets as of the 31st of December 2023 were reported at $111,702,038, and the fixed assets were $108,487,248. The authority also reported total assets of $224,121,305 and total liabilities of $265,422,365. The net equity was reported at $41,301,060 compared to the period ending December 2023. Importantly, authority ended the fiscal year with a cash balance of $24,141,844. Mr. Speaker, while we should expect no less from any other statutory authorities, the HSA should be applauded for achieving another clean audit opinion, 5 consecutive years on its 2023 financial statements. I am sure you will agree that we look forward to witnessing this upward trend. Mr. Speaker, there was one emphasis of matter in the Auditor General's 2023 report. The Auditor General draws attention to Note 25, Going Concern Considerations, which state that the recognition of post-retirement health liability resulted in a net liability of $41.3 million in the statement of the financial position. This event raised a substantial doubt relating to HSA's ability to continue as an ongoing concern. Note 25 also explains a series of action plans taken by management to alleviate this concern. The Auditor General's opinion is not modified in respect of this matter. Nevertheless, Mr. Speaker, the leadership of the Health Services Authority continues to monitor and manage the risk resulting from annual accrual validations. In closing, Mr. Speaker, I would like to recognize the Health Services Authority for their achievements in 2023 and publicly thank the Board of Directors and management for their hard work and perseverance in producing this report in the high standard required to receive an unqualified opinion. As always, Mr. Speaker, I invite members of this Honourable House and the public to review these reports in further detail. A health system is only as good as the care it provides, and every employee of the HSAs plays a role in doing just that, and they have my gratitude. Allow me to applaud the HSA on the sterling contributions and their tremendous progress made over the year, enduring to improve and enhance services for our community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well.
Ministry of Home Affairs, Cayman Islands Government, 2023 Annual Report for the period 1st of January to 31st of December 2023, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness.
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Home Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the Cayman Islands Government 2023 Annual Report for Home Affairs, period 1st of January 2023 to the 31st of December 2023.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak there too?
Very briefly on this one. Again, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for this opportunity to offer brief remarks on the 2023 Annual Report for the Ministry of Home Affairs. This report provides a comprehensive overview of the strategic initiatives and key operational activities that were carried out over the period of the 1st of January 2023 to the 31st of December 2023 by Ministry's 6 esteemed departments. These departments being the Department of Public Safety Communications, the Department of Community Rehabilitation, the Cayman Islands Regiment, the Cayman Islands Cadet Corps, the Cayman Islands Fire Service, and His Majesty Cayman Islands Prison Service. Mr. Speaker, throughout 2023, we faced numerous challenges, yet achieved remarkable milestone in the strengthening of our national resilience. In such times, we are reminded by author and former U.S. serviceman, that's Jacko Wilkin, that I quote, "As a leader, you have to balance the dichotomy to be resolute where it matters, but never inflexible and uncompromising on matters of little importance to the overall good of the team and the strategic mission," unquote. In other words, Mr. Speaker, the ministry remained adaptable and responsive to change as we sought to manage and understand a variety of complex issues, from evolving gang-related issues to natural disasters. Our aim was to apply robust, coordinated, and sustainable solutions. Ultimately, as the 2023 annual report reflects, we have established that the enduring vision of the Ministry of Home Affairs is to help build a safer, more resilient Cayman Islands. And so, it is through these lenses that we are responding to an increasingly diverse set of public safety risks. At the same time, the report demonstrates that we are eager to pursue new opportunities and break new ground as needed in order to advance public safety. In doing so, Mr. Speaker, the 2023 annual report shows how the ministry pursued particular strategic initiatives through each of our departments, with the goal of delivering impactful public safety outcomes. Mr. Speaker, over the period, the ministry delivered on important policy decisions that resulted in, among other things, funding for the creation of additional firefighter posts to meet emergency response demands, deployment of additional national CCTV cameras to support the police in tackling serious criminal activities, and enhance offender management operations. Mr. Speaker, we also took the strategic decision to provide funding for the purchase of a maritime training vessel for the Cadet Corps. And at the same time, we forged new relationships with the uniformed services, all with a vision to create public safety career pathways for our cadets. As I said, Mr. Speaker, we are aiming for impactful outcomes within the criminal justice sphere of our operations. The joined-up service delivery between the Prison Service and the Department of Community Rehabilitation has become a model for other jurisdictions. In collaboration with their partner agencies, including the Police Service, Counseling Service, and the courts, the 2023 report highlights the ways with DCR and the prison services are seeking to progress a whole-of-society approach to rehabilitation and reintegration. Mr. Speaker, the report also speaks to the emergency operations side of our business, highlighting that deliberate focus is being placed on improving response capabilities through multi-agency training and implementation of cutting-edge technology. In particular, we are aiming to enhancing sustainable awareness, and not only for our own departments, but also for our partners, including the Police Service, Coast Guard, and Customs and Border Control. Mr. Speaker, in closing, I wish to thank all of our staff in the Core Ministry and across the 6 departments. As evidenced in this report, the work of Home Affairs directly contributes to national security and is pivotal to the functioning of our society. I must therefore commend our incredible public safety professionals whose collective work underpins the safety and stability that we continue to enjoy and on which we build into the future. Indeed, this 2023 annual report reflects to ministry that is fully engaged, enthusiasm, and their dedication to delivering on a vision of building a safer, more resilient Cayman Islands. Mr. Speaker, I look forward to therefore being able to provide additional statement during this sitting which will serve as a further update on the strategic initiatives and outcomes currently being pursued on the heels of our 2023 deliverables. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well.
Cayman Islands Central Planning Authority and Development Control Board 2022 Annual Report, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Planning.
I recognize the Honourable Minister for Planning.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the Cayman Islands Central Planning Authority Development Control Board 2022 Annual Report.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak thereto?
No, sir. It's self-explanatory, and I encourage everybody to read it.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Ministry of Planning, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure, Cayman Islands Government Annual Report 2022, Recovery and Resilience, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Planning.
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Planning, Agriculture, Housing, Infrastructure, Transport and Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to lay on this Honourable House the...
Not on the House, just the table.
Or on the table, sorry. Ministry of Planning, Agriculture, Housing, Infrastructure, Cayman Islands Government Annual Report 2022, Recovery and Resilience.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak thereto?
Again, sir, it is self-explanatory, and I encourage everybody to read it.
Very well.
Financial Reporting Authority 2023 Annual Report, Cayman Islands Government Portfolio of Legal Affairs, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Attorney General.
I recognize the Honourable Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to lay on the table of this House the Financial Reporting Authority 2023 Annual Report.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Attorney General wish to speak thereto?
Mr. Speaker, yes, with your leave, thank you. Mr. Speaker, as an administrative financial intelligence unit, the Financial Reporting Authority is responsible for receiving, requesting, analyzing, and disseminating financial information disclosures concerning proceeds of criminal conduct or suspected proceeds of criminal conduct. Domestically, Mr. Speaker, the investigation of financial crime, of course, and any associated offenses fall under the ambit of the relevant law enforcement agencies. But during the relevant period, Mr. Speaker, the FRA received 1,501 cases comprising 1,290 suspicious activity reports from 292 reporting entities. It also received 129 requests for information and 47 voluntary disclosures from 47 overseas financial intelligence units. Mr. Speaker, it also had 35 requests for information from local law enforcement agencies. The number of cases received decreased by 5% compared to the number of cases received during the 2022 period, which was 1,501 versus 1,586. Mr. Speaker, sources of SARS, sources of these suspicious activity reports, banks regained their spot as the largest source of cases with some 392 cases, or 26%. Then we had virtual asset service providers, 282 cases, or 19%, followed by overseas financial intelligence unit, 176 cases, or 12%. Investment funds, 130 cases, or 9%. Company managers or corporate service providers, 110 reports, or 7%. Mutual fund administrators, 76 cases, or 5%. Securities licensees, 56 cases, or 4%. Lawyers, 55 cases, or 4%. Insurance business, 40 cases, or 3%. Trust companies, 31 cases, or 2%, and money transmitters, 31 cases, or 2%. Reason for suspicion. Mr. Speaker, 2023 was the third year that multiple reasons for suspicions for each case could be tracked. 2,668 reasons for suspicions were recorded, and the 7 most common reasons for cases received were suspicious activity, 1,005 cases, or 67%. There were 720 cases of suspicious fraud, 48%. Money laundering, 235 cases, or 16%. Sanctions, Mr. Speaker, 121 cases, or 8%. There were 81 cases of declined business, or 5%. And tax evasion, there were 78 cases, suspicious cases, or 5%. Corruption, there were 76 cases, or 5%. Mr. Speaker, during the reporting period, the FRA performed initial analysis on 1,492 cases. It also issued 217 directives pursuant to Section 42C of the Proceeds of Crime Act in order to amplify or clarify information that has been received by the FRA or to respond to requests from Overseas Financial Intelligence Unit. The FRA itself also made 38 requests for information to Overseas Financial Intelligence Unit, primarily to assist local law enforcement agencies with their investigations, Mr. Speaker. The FRA closed 1,133 cases during the reporting period, resulted in 379 disclosures to local law enforcement agencies or competent authorities. Mr. Speaker, during the reporting period, the FRA exercised its powers under Section 42B of the Proceeds of Crime Act on 4 occasions to obtain an order from the court in order to order an entity to refrain from dealing with a person's account for as much as up to 21 days, I'm sorry. The assets impacted in these accounts were US $1.8 million. Mr. Speaker, Russian sanctions. The Russian invasion of Ukraine on 24 February 2022 led to an unprecedented number of sanctions being imposed by the United Kingdom and other countries, and Russia in terms of size, scale, and of course, complexity. As a result, sir, it was a very challenging year for the Financial Reporting Authority as it relates to sanctions implementation in the Cayman Islands. Between February and December 2022, there were 17 amendments with 1 revocation covering various measures to the UK-Russian sanctions, EU exit regulations. Of these, 14 of these amendments were extended to the Cayman Islands in 2022. Mr. Speaker, between 1st of March and the 31st of December 2022, a total of 1,030 compliance reporting forms were received by the FRA related to Russian sanctions regime. A total of approximately US $8.8 billion and euros 298.6 million were impacted by some of these actions taken by the FRA. Mr. Speaker, the FRA has also seen a significant increase in license application and queries received under the Russian sanction regime. 22 formal applications were received, the majority of which were made under the extraordinary situation and prior obligation licensing grounds. These are, Mr. Speaker, where assets are frozen or their ongoing activity, and the firm, law firm or accounting firm or whatever it is, need permission to deal with the asset, notwithstanding the fact that it is subject to sanctions, and they can be granted a license to carry out limited activities. The Cayman Islands has adopted a robust and comprehensive response to the imposition of the new Russian sanctions measures. Of note, Mr. Speaker, in March 2022, a joint task force on Russia comprising representatives from 11 ministries, offices, portfolios, and agencies, was formed to coordinate, identify, and implement policy amendments in order to implement the Russia sanctions regime. The director of the Financial Reporting Authority, Mr. R.J. Berry, is the chair of the task force, and the sanctions coordinator is also a member. The primary purpose of the task force is to provide centralized discussions and decisions around policy and communications arising from the ongoing sanctions. The task force met numerous times during 2022, meeting weekly initially, and of course, now meet every 2 weeks later in the year, and if necessary, more often. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the Director of the Financial Reporting Authority, Mr. Robert Berry, aka RJ Berry, and his dedicated staff for the excellent and exemplary work. I thank you.
Very well.
Questions to honorable ministers and members of the cabinet?
Given the hour, I invite the Honorable Premier to move the suspension of Standing Order 23-7 in order that questions may be asked of ministers after the hour of 11 o'clock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move the suspension of Standing Order 7 and 8 to allow the questions to commence beyond the hour of 11 a.m.
The motion has been duly moved. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Standing Orders 23-7 and 8 are accordingly suspended.
Elected member for Georgetown East to ask the Honorable Minister of Youth, Sports and Heritage. Question number 1.
I recognize the Honorable Member for Georgetown East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask question number 1, standing in my name, to ask the Honourable Minister of Youth, Sports and Heritage. Can the Honourable Minister provide details of the delegation that accompanied him to the Paris Olympics, including the duration of their stay, cost per person, and the tangible benefits this trip brought to the Caymanian people? Thank you.
I recognize the Honourable Minister for Youth, Sports and Heritage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just before I answer the question from the Honourable Member, I'd like to say that it's my honor and responsibility to have attended and supported our athletes. And I also want to take this opportunity to again congratulate Julian Crooks, Jordan Crooks, Charlotte Webster, and Devontae Howell for representing the Cayman Islands in an incredible way, and thank them for the way they filled our country with so much pride, excitement, and made us truly Caymanian proud. Mr. Speaker, the answer. In all instances possible, the Minister and or representatives responsible for the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Heritage attends and supports initiatives and events relevant to these subject matters locally and internationally, including the Olympics. The ministry delegation that attended the 2024 Olympics in Paris was the Honourable Minister Rankin and the Deputy Chief Officer with oversight of sports. The Honourable Minister traveled from the 27th of July to the 5th of August 24 at a cost of $17,655.46, and the Deputy Chief Officer traveled from 20th of July to the 5th of August at a cost of $12,520.17. The key benefits of the trips were the opportunity for the Minister and the DCO to provide encouragement and support to the athletes attending the Olympics, the ability for the Minister to develop closer professional partnerships with ministers and representatives from other jurisdictions, and the DCO attendance at the Ministerial Forum Sports Conference held by UNESCO, which proved to be informative and beneficial for the future enhancements of sports in the Cayman Islands.
Thank you. Supplementaries? No supplementaries. Question time is finished.
Statements by the honourable ministers and members of the cabinet.
I received 4 statements this morning, but I regret I haven't had a chance to consider them, so I will defer them to the next sitting.
Personal explanations,
None.
obituary and other ceremonial speeches,
I have received notice from the former leader of the opposition, the current leader of the opposition, and the honorable deputy leader of the opposition of their wish to make short speeches on the occasion of the appointment of the new leadership team for the opposition. The honorable former leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Cayman is on the brink of something extraordinary. Change is in the air. But unlike the uncertainty that has plagued us over the last 3 years, today marks the beginning of intentional, purposeful change led by a unified People's Progressives movement. It has been my honor to lead the PPM through times of challenge and triumph. We have navigated turbulent times, turbulent waters, and reached new heights, always with a vision for a Cayman that serves all its people. But even as we've built a foundation of strength, there comes a time when every movement must look ahead, embrace renewal, and prepare for what is next. The transition we all witness today is a testament to our strength, our vision, and our readiness to embrace change. It is not a departure from our core values, but a reaffirmation that we are a living, breathing movement, one that evolves, adapts, and rises to meet the needs of every Caymanian. I pass this mantle to my friend and colleague, the member for Georgetown North, with full confidence in his ability to lead us into this new era. He represents the very best of what our party aspires to be, a blend of fresh thinking, unwavering energy, and a deep, heartfelt connection to our people. He brings a dynamic vision that will propel us forward while still honoring the legacy and principles that have defined us. He is stepping into a role at a very pivotal moment. Things are about to get interesting, and that's precisely what our Cayman needs: a leader unafraid to challenge the norm, to innovate, and push for the changes that will ensure our islands not only survive, but thrive. Mr. Speaker, as I continue to serve in Parliament, my commitment to our shared mission remains steadfast. I will be there, not as the leader, but as a partner, ready to support, guide, and lend my experience whenever needed. The torch I pass today is not an end, but it is a beginning, a signal that the PPM is more than ready to face whatever lies ahead, and we are not afraid to do so. To my fellow Caymanians, I urge you to rally behind our new leader, and together we will continue to build a Cayman that stands as a beacon of hope and progress for all. Today, it isn't just about changing the leader of the opposition, it's about embarking on a journey of renewal, innovation, and boundless potential. I have no doubt that our party will not only endure, but flourish in ways we have yet to imagine. To my fellow progressives, I thank you for your unwavering trust, your unyielding support, and for being part of this journey. Let us move forward united and resolute, ready to embrace the changes that will define a brighter, stronger Cayman. May God continue to bless the PPM, and may He continue to guide and protect these beautiful Cayman Islands we all call home. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Cayman is on the brink of transformation. We stand at the start of a new chapter, one that will be written by the hands of every Caymanian, fueled by our courage, our unity, and our unwavering will to rise together. Honorable Speaker, esteemed members of Parliament, my fellow Caymanians. Today, I stand before you not just as a new leader of the opposition, but as a dedicated servant of these islands, of every man, woman, and child who calls Cayman home. The role I accept is more than a position. It is a responsibility. It is a call to action, a call to protect the soul of our nation and secure the future that we all deserve. We owe a profound debt of gratitude to the Honorable Roy McTaggart. His leadership has been a guiding light through some turbulent times. Your dedication and steadfast hand have set a path that we are committed to honoring and building upon. And now, as we face new challenges, we step forward with the strength, vision, and boldness that our people demand and deserve. I'm also, Mr. Speaker, likewise honored to welcome my colleague, the Member of Parliament for Georgetown South, as the new Deputy Leader of the Opposition. She has been a loyal and invaluable member of the People's Progressive Movement since 2002, playing key roles in shaping our party's direction. And with her impressive career in financial services and her experience in various parliamentary roles since being elected in 2017, which including a time as Parliamentary Secretary for Education, Youth and Finance, and now as Shadow Minister for Education and Social Development, Barbara brings immense expertise to this position. Her appointment today is truly historic, as she becomes the first woman to hold this office, and I have no doubt her leadership will be instrumental in shaping the policies that will positively impact the lives of Caymanians. Our story will not be one of waiting for change to happen. It will be a story of driving change ourselves. This movement is not just an idea, but it is a promise to every Caymanian who has felt the burden of struggle, to every young person who dreams of a future where their potential knows no limit, and to everyone who envisions a better tomorrow. We will not stand by as passive observers of our destiny. We will be the architects of Cayman's next evolution. Under our leadership, the People's Progressive Movement will not simply be a voice in Parliament. We will be the pulse of the nation. We will be the force that challenges the status quo and advocates for an economy that works for every Caymanian. To the young people of Cayman, standing on the threshold of your aspirations, this is your Cayman. Your voice matters. You will be seen, and you will be heard. Change is upon us, Mr. Speaker. Together, we will build a Cayman that is proud, strong, and unrelenting in its pursuit of progress for all. This is our moment, and we will not rest until every Caymanian can confidently say that this is our Cayman. Colleagues, I want to thank you for placing your trust in me. Together, we will write the next chapter in Cayman's story. I am committed to my role as Her Majesty's Leader of the Opposition, and while I will continue to hold the government accountable, I also look forward to working with them throughout the term for the betterment of our nation. In closing, Mr. Speaker, I would like to express my concern for those who may be facing Hurricane Milton this week. Many Caymanians and loved ones in the affected areas, and our thoughts and prayers are with them, and we pray for their safety and well-being during this challenging time. Mr. Speaker, may God bless our mission, and may God bless these Cayman Islands. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is with deep humility, immense pride, and an unwavering sense of duty, that I accept the honor and responsibility of serving as Deputy Leader of the Opposition. I am profoundly grateful to my colleagues in the official opposition for their trust and confidence in me. Their recommendation for this role is both humbling and motivating. I would first like to extend my heartfelt thanks to the Honourable Roy McTaggart for his exemplary leadership over the past 3.5 years. His steadfast commitment to fiscal responsibility and social advocacy has set a strong foundation for us to build upon. As we move forward, I am equally excited to work alongside the Honourable Joey Hugh, whose leadership will undoubtedly bring fresh ideas and a renewed sense of purpose to both the People's Progressive Movement and the official opposition. For the past 7.5 years, I've had the privilege of serving the people of Georgetown South. Their support has been unwavering, and for that I remain deeply grateful. I want to take this opportunity to reassure not only my constituents, but all the people of the Cayman Islands that my dedication to working tirelessly on your behalf remains resolute. As I step into this new role, my focus will be on fostering unity, driving meaningful progress, and ensuring that the voices of all Caymanians are heard and represented. Together, we will navigate the challenges ahead and work towards a future that offers hope, opportunity, and progress for every citizen of the Cayman Islands. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Leader. I recognize the Honourable Premier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I wish to congratulate the opposition, in particular the leader of the opposition, and also to say how delighted I am to witness the first female leader of the opposition. It's come a long way since we first started, Mr. Speaker. To see this happening today is a delightful transition. I also want to express our thanks to the former leader of the opposition for displaying that democracy is alive and well within the Cayman Islands, and that we can see a smooth, tranquil and serene transition right here in the Parliament at the beginning of another meeting of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, with your kind permission, I won't be long, but I would ask for you to allow me to do a quote by someone I'm sure you're familiar with as well, John C. Maxwell, and I quote that true leadership is not generated by a title. In fact, being named to a position is the lowest of the 5 important pointers that leads towards leadership. To be more than a boss, people are required to follow, and one must master the ability to inspire and to invest in people. One will need to know how to build a team that produces results and also future leaders. And Mr. Speaker, I believe that, as I continue to quote, by combining the advice, the skill, and the dedication, one includes the current new leader of the opposition. Your dedication, Mr. Leader of the opposition, can indeed reach the pinnacle of leadership, where your influence extends way beyond the immense reach and the benefits that can be wrought for others. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to be in a jurisdiction whereby we can stand on the floor of Parliament, and unless we were witnesses or listening live to YouTube or Facebook or later tonight or through Radio Cayman, one would never imagine that the transition had just occurred. Truly, Cayman is a blessed place, and democracy is still the best form of government. Mr. Speaker, I'd also ask you to kindly permit me to just say in passing, as there have been other forums that we've expressed what I'm about to express, that we are keenly watching what started out as a system in the Bay of Campeche, and at 1 o'clock last night it was 90 miles per hour. 6 o'clock it had moved up to 125. At 8 o'clock when I was flying in this morning, it had moved to 150 miles per hour. The eye had not completely cleared out yet, so we can expect an ERI throughout the course of the day. Those of us in the Cayman Islands, we pay close attention to it, not because it's being directed to our territory, but there are many Caymanians, in particular students, in there. I'm grateful for the colleague, the Honourable Minister of Tourism, Mr. Paul Tibbetts and Fabian, and those at Cayman Airways who have put on extra capacity to ensure, and they can go on, as I said, to the Cayman Airways, but there'll be a flight coming out tonight. There were some extra seats in today, as Tampa Airport has indicated that they will not open the Tampa Airport tomorrow. So those within the listening or those within the chamber who have contacts throughout, please pass this very important information out. It's not a system for anyone to joke in. Obviously, we can't force the students to come back if they choose to find shelter in place, but we would strongly urge and encourage to come back. Cayman Airways have also waived the change fee for the tickets through Thursday, and that's not just for the Tampa Airport, Mr. Speaker, but also for Miami Airport departure. So I would covet the prayers of not only members here today, but throughout the entire Cayman Islands, to pray for those in Florida as this impending weather approaches them. God bless you, and God bless the Cayman Islands.
Thank you, Madam Premier.
I thought, Mr. Speaker, after I listened, that as the longest serving member,
I was just going to ask if you are insisting on your right as the father of the house.
I do have, I believe, a right sometimes.
I agree, sir. Please proceed.
But I, as the longest serving member, I thought I should say something. I think the Premier put it absolutely the way it is. But I do want to welcome the change and to say I know the new leader all his life. I used to teach him Sunday school, and I must say he didn't pick up too much sometimes, and sometimes he carried the good parts and brought them with him. But as the longest serving member, next month will be 40 years. 40 years. And while I offer congratulations to all of them, and to say congratulations to the party, because they've shown that it works. And to have it done the way they have done it speaks well for our democracy. Parties are needed. Organization is needed in the country where people must obey the organization, not to leave the constituency aside, because it's the constituency that puts us here. The people put us here. Organization is needed. And so, Mr. Leader, I can only promise to give you as much challenge as you give me. If I'm not in the ring next time round, I may still be helpful with challenges.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker,
for Labour.
I beg your indulgence as a former member of the PPM, the last PPM government. Proverbs 19:21 says, "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails." Mr. Speaker, I would like to congratulate our parliamentarians and friends of their new appointments. As Leader of the Opposition, the member from Georgetown North, Mr. Joey Hugh, who has been my friend for over 45 years, and the Deputy Opposition Leader for Georgetown South, Ms. Barbara Connolly, the first woman in that post. As we know, the role of the opposition, the official opposition, is to question and scrutinize the work of the government and hold them accountable to the public. I am confident both are very capable of leading this charge, including his and her shadow ministers. As Caymanians, and I want to repeat that again, the 19 members of this parliament are all of one cohort, and we're all Caymanians, and I never thought that anyone...
Honorable Minister, there are actually 21 members, 19 elected, but the other
agreed.
The other two are Caymanians.
And the elected I'm speaking about, and I think that they all mean well for these Cayman Islands. And Mr. Speaker, I wish them all the best, and I also want to thank the Honorable Georgetown East, Mr. Roy McTaggart, for his service. And I think I will end at this time, because if I say anything further, more accusations of my known relationship with the PPM government, who I honorably serve with. I want to send out my prayers for those in the path of the hurricane to Florida. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The Honorable Minister for Tourism and Ports.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the last member just said, that we are a part of a fraternity in this Honorable House, regardless of what side of the aisle that we sit. And with that vein in mind, I want to congratulate the member for Georgetown North in transitioning to his new position, and thank the former Leader of Opposition for doing his duties as the Leader of Opposition. Mr. Speaker, many times people may not be as familiar with the purposes of each one of these aisles and each one of these seats, which takes me back to a comment you said to me when I was in opposition, that you have a responsibility over there, young man, do your job, stop agreeing with me. And Mr. Speaker, the opposition has a serious role in this country. And this is where, though we may oppose on policy positions, we respect each other's role. And unlike the other minister worries about speculation of joining the progressives, I'm doing... My apologies, I retract that, Mr. Speaker. Speculations of relationships with the members. I am standing in honor of the fraternity upon which we are all a part, including all 21 members, to say thank you and wish you the best in your opposition work. But we are the government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Madam Clerk. Oh.
Mr. Speaker, I won't be long, but in
the Honorable Minister for Sustainability, yes.
Thank you. In the interest of time, I won't be long, but it would be remiss of me as a female to not personally congratulate the new Deputy Leader of Opposition, Ms. Barbara Connolly, on her appointment. And also to you, Mr. Leader, congratulations to you. We wish you well in your new role. And to the former leader, we also congratulate you on now being able to accommodate the back bench and put the heat on those in the front. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Madam Clerk.
Raising of matter of privileges.
None.
Government business. Bills. First reading. Information and Communication Technology Validation Bill 2024.
I recognize the Honourable Minister for Planning and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the Information and Communication Technology Validation Bill 2024 be deferred to the next meeting of the House of Parliament.
The motion is duly moved. The question is that the bill shortly entitled the Information and Communications Technology Validation Bill 2024 be deferred to the next meeting of the House. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The bill is accordingly deferred to the next meeting of the House. Madam Clerk.
Motions. Government motion number 1 of 2024-2025, referendum on cruise berthing infrastructure, to be moved by the Honourable Minister of Tourism and Ports.
I recognize the Honourable Minister for Tourism and Ports.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to move the government motion number 1 of 2024-2025, standing in my name, referendum on cruise berthing infrastructure.
I invite the Honourable Minister to read the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Whereas Section 69 of the Cayman Islands Constitution, Order 2009, provides that a law enacted by the legislature may make provisions to hold a referendum amongst persons registered as electors in accordance with Section 90 on a matter or matters of national importance, and whereas there has been much debate for the last 2 decades on the subject of cruise tourism, in particular cruise berthing infrastructure, and whereas since cruise ships returned to the Cayman Islands in 2022, following the end of the COVID-19 pandemic, passengers' arrivals have significantly declined, registering 743,394 passengers for the 9-month period that the port was open in 2022, and 1.2 million for the full year in 2023, the lowest arrival numbers in over 2 decades, and 643,212 cruise passengers arriving during January and June of this year. And whereas the government intends to hold a referendum on the cruise berthing infrastructure on the day of the general elections 2025, be it therefore resolved that the following question be declared to be a matter of national importance. And I quote, Mr. Speaker, should the Cayman Islands develop cruise berthing infrastructure, end quote. And be it now further resolved that said question be specified in a bill and brought by the government to this Parliament for debate in accordance with the provisions of Section 69 of the Cayman Islands Constitution, Order 2009.
The question has been, the motion has been duly moved. Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak thereto?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to bring forward this motion for debate with a sense of purpose, duty, and urgency. The future of our nation's tourism industry is at stake, and it is my responsibility as the Minister for Tourism to address the evolving realities that threaten one of the key pillars of our economy, cruise tourism. The motion before us seeks approval for a referendum to be held in tandem with the upcoming general election on the question of whether the Cayman Islands should build cruise berthing facilities. This is a matter that affects us all, and we believe that the people should decide on this issue. It is a matter of national importance that we do not take lightly. This government has taken a supportive stance on the development of a cruise berthing facility, and I stand here today to explain why. We are not here to rush decisions or to force through measures that have not been carefully considered. Instead, we are here to ensure that the people of these islands are given the opportunity to weigh in on an issue that directly affects their livelihoods, the future of their businesses, and the long-term sustainability of our economy. As the Minister for Tourism, it is my firm belief that the government's decision to support this referendum reflects our commitment to transparency, democracy, and the welfare of our people. First and foremost, Mr. Speaker, I would like to make it clear that this referendum is about empowering our people. The issue of cruise berthing has sparked passionate debates across our islands, with strong views both for and against the development of a pier. The government respects these views, and we recognize the need for the people to have their say in a fair and democratic process. This is why we are bringing this motion for a referendum on the floor of this honorable House today. While the government has taken a supportive stance on the issue, we are not here to impose our views without the people's consent. It is only right that that decision of this magnitude, one that can shape the future of our tourism sector for decades to come, should be made by the people. Mr. Speaker, we trust the people of the Cayman Islands to make an informed choice based on facts, realities, and long-term interest of all three Cayman Islands. The forthcoming general election will already serve as a time for reflection and accountability and decision-making. By holding the referendum in tandem with the election will ensure that the cost of the referendum is minimized and that the voter turnout is maximized. This is a prudent and democratic way to handle such an important, consequential issue. Mr. Speaker, there are two other questions that will be included in the referendum, which were previously brought before this Honorable House in December of 2022. Presented in motion number 3 of 2022-2023, entitled, and I quote, "Referendum on National Lottery and Decriminalization of Cannabis," end quote. Given that these have already been debated and I spoke on them at that time, I will not repeat myself by going over the debate again, and I can't, according to the standing orders, as it's not within the resolve of the motion. I know that, Mr. Speaker. Instead, I will focus on the specific question that asks whether the Cayman Islands should develop cruise berthing infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, this is a watershed moment for our islands because the answer to this question, whether yes or no, will have long-lasting impacts on the future of the Cayman Islands tourism industry. The outcome will shape our economic landscape, the livelihoods of our people, and our ability to remain a world-class tourism destination for two distinct sectors, stayover and cruise. This is why it's so crucial and critical that we allow the people to have their say on this matter.
Now, Mr. Speaker, I will outline the government's reasons for supporting the development of a cruise berthing facility in the Cayman Islands. One of the most compelling reasons for supporting cruise berthing is the protection of Caymanian jobs, businesses, and the greater economy. There are thousands of Caymanians who rely on the cruise sector for their livelihoods. They're not just abstract statistics. There are our friends, there are our neighbors, there are family members, there are taxi drivers, our tour operators, our artisans, and small business owners who depend on the cruise passengers for their income. If the cruise sector is allowed to dwindle to nothing, Mr. Speaker, and let me emphasize, this is a real possibility, these Caymanians will be left out of any source of income within the cruise sector. Their jobs will be displaced, their businesses will have, that they've worked so hard to build over decades, will face closures. Well, we simply should not stand by and allow this to happen. And I say we, Mr. Speaker, we, the people. As a government, we have a duty to safeguard the livelihoods of our people, and one of the most effective ways to do this is by ensuring that we have the infrastructure in place to support a thriving cruise industry. There is a misconception, Mr. Speaker, that the loss of cruise tourism will only affect a small segment of our population, and simply, that is not true. The ripple effects of the decline in cruise tourism will be felt across our economy on a whole. Businesses that rely on cruise passengers, whether directly or indirectly, would suffer. These include restaurants, retail shops, and even those in the service industries who provide ancillary support. And let me explain, Mr. Speaker. The people who deliver the supplies to the shop that's in cruise tourism, the people who clean the stores that cater to cruise passengers, the gas stations that service the gas to the taxi drivers, the tour operators, or the boat operators, the landlords who lease or rent their units to the cruise tourism businesses, the tender operators and captains. And yes, Mr. Speaker, I said the tender operators and captains, because they too will be affected over time as fewer and fewer ships come to our shores, because there will be less need for tendering. The income generated from cruise tourism flows through our entire economy, and we must protect that flow to safeguard the future of our Caymanian workers and entrepreneurs. But don't take my word for it, Mr. Speaker. Rather, let's look at the Economics and Statistics Office and what they had to say on the matter. In their report entitled, and Mr. Speaker, before I speak to the report, I would like to offer the members of the opposition and yourself, Mr. Speaker, a copy of the report, as I will be referring to it. Mr. Speaker, I'm just awaiting that you have a copy before you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In their report entitled, "The Economic Impact of Cruise Tourism in the Cayman Islands," the ESO quantifies that the pre-pandemic in 2018, the cruise sector generated a total spending contribution of $350.1 million into the Cayman Islands economy. That figure that have now fallen to $261 million in 2023. That's a decline of $89 million in 6 years. Mr. Speaker, it doesn't stop there. It is expected to further decline to $253.4 million in 2024. substantiating the fact that the cruise sector is slowly showing a pattern of steady decline. This revenue helps to fund our public services, to fund our police, our teachers, our fire officers, our civil servants, our road systems, our school facilities, our affordable housing programs, our scholarships for our children, our health care at HSA, our seaman benefits, our government pensions, and a host of many other programs and benefits to our people. If we allow the cruise sector to decline, the revenue that we earn will also disappear over time, Mr. Speaker. As a government, as a people, we have a responsibility to tell the people what will happen with that decline and what it will do to our country and the economy. We should be taking a proactive approach to secure the future of our cruise tourism industry so that it can continue to contribute to our economy for generations to come. Mr. Speaker, the cruise lines have been clear about their changes in their business models. They are building larger ships that cannot rely on tendering. For years, they have told us that this change was coming, but their advice has been dismissed, and we have continued to ignore the warning signs in the market as we watch their ships sailing us by. Mr. Speaker, truth be told, I was one of those persons who wasn't convinced and didn't believe the cruise lines. But I will speak more to that a little bit later on in my contributions, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, history is full of examples of companies that didn't respond to market changes. Because of their fixed mindset, they didn't just misread the market or missed out on opportunities of the market. They actively refused to evolve and keep up with the changing industry trends. Eventually, they were left behind and suffered the consequences of job losses, business closures, and loss of revenue. I ask every member of this House to take a look at your cell phones for a minute, even though some of them are already on their phones, like the new leader of the opposition. I would dare say, I'm sure that the phone says either iPhone or Samsung, or maybe some auxiliary brand if you're lucky. But one thing I'm sure about, and I can guarantee you it doesn't say Nokia, Mr. Speaker. And yet Nokia was the first company to create a cellular network in the whole of the world. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, they were the global leader in mobile phones. But they overestimated their appeal and their strength of their brand. They thought they were so special that when it comes to mobile phones, they can just show up late to the smartphone race and still win. But, Mr. Speaker, were they ever so wrong? The same thing happened with BlackBerry. And, Mr. Speaker, I'm pretty sure you remember back in the day, everybody had a little BlackBerry and their holster on their belt. When the rest of the world was moving to touch screens, they said, people love our keyboards. Our keyboards make us different. BlackBerry refused to adapt, and they too were wrong, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure you can see the pattern of the examples I'm using here. But just in case you don't see the pattern, there's plenty more that I can use. For example, Kodak, Xerox, or Blockbusters. Does anybody remember Blockbusters? I'm quite sure they're not making no money. The company that was once on every street corner, in every neighborhood, in every big city in the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada. You see, Mr. Speaker, Blockbusters was doing great until Netflix came around and started offering more convenience, more choice, and better experience for their customers. All of these companies have one thing in common, Mr. Speaker. They all thought that their particular product was so unique and so special that they refused to evolve. And their failure to adapt led to their downfall. Mr. Speaker, I don't think it would be wise to allow the Cayman Islands to follow those examples, knowing where that would lead, knowing the effects it will have on our people, knowing the effects it will have on our businesses, knowing the effects it will have on our economy. Because if we continue refusing to respond to the evolving needs of the cruise industry, an industry that has been transparent with us about their requirements, we too will be left behind. The cruise lines have been warning us for decades not to be like Nokia, not to be like BlackBerry, and not to be like Blockbusters. With the data and the realities since COVID lockdown, Mr. Speaker, it would be foolish to believe that the cruise lines are bluffing and that the Cayman's uniqueness and desirability will force them somehow to continue tendering. Because, Mr. Speaker, the evidence before us today shows otherwise. Let's take for a moment to look at what some of the data is saying to us, Mr. Speaker. Work with me. For the period of January to August 2024, cruise passenger arrivals were 758,512 persons, which is down by 39%, or 485,202 persons from the same period in 2019, just a short few years ago. Compared to 2023, passenger arrivals are down 13.9%, or 122,265 persons. Looking at the cruise calls during this period, there were 230 cruise calls, which is a worrying 173 calls less than the corresponding period in January to August of 2019, Mr. Speaker, and 52 calls less than last year. The ESO report forecasts that based on the current cruise schedules and the trend of the newer ships not calling on Grand Cayman, cruise arrivals are expected to decline by 4.8% in this year. And if you add the weather patterns we had last month, I'm certain the numbers are going to come back worse. Aside from a temporary rise in calls next year, after I've been begging them over and over and over again, the Cayman Islands is expected to see an annual decline of 5.2% going forward every year. Mr. Speaker, the ESO report goes on to state, and I quote, under current projections, it's estimated that by 2029, gross value added from the industry will fall by $128.9 million, or 1.8% of our GDP. Similarly, Mr. Speaker, the total supported employment is projected to fall by a whopping, listen to this, Mr. Speaker, a whopping 19.3%. Let me read that one more time. Similarly, the supported employment is projected to fall by 19.3% to 1,169 by the year 2029. To all of my good people of this country, I encourage you to go online and read the full report. It's very, very daunting. Additionally, government revenue from cruise is projected to decline by an average of 4.3% annually after 2025, end quote. What this data is telling us is that we are losing our competitive advantage because our destination that have been keeping up with the changing times, the other destinations that are keeping up with the involvement of the industry are taking our place in the market. And Mr. Speaker, as Caymanians, we've always been so proud to speak about how we have thrived because of our ability to adapt and innovate and respond to the changing times. This decision should be no different today. It is simply a test of our willingness to embrace the future. For all of these years, despite the fact that some have seen it as threatening, the cruise lines have been consistently informing us of their cruise berthing needs. And now, they're taking the steps to adjust their itineraries based on their realities, or based on the reality of our current infrastructure, or should I say, Mr. Speaker, lack thereof infrastructure. We cannot afford to ignore this reality any longer without facing the consequences, Mr. Speaker. And I fear the consequences will be dire. If we want to continue being a preferred destination for cruise passengers, we should invest in the infrastructure that they need to bring their passengers to us safely and efficiently. Simply put, if we want to continue attracting visitors and maintaining our status as a top destination, we have to provide the facilities that the modern travelers expect. Mr. Speaker, some of the things that I am about to say, you've heard them before. I know you have. Matter of fact, you said them before. But they're so important, it's bear repeating. Starting first with the benefits of a cruise pair. We've heard many times, Mr. Speaker, that it would allow passengers to spend more time on our islands. Currently, the tendering process limits the amount of time passengers have to explore and enjoy our attractions. By building a pair, we would streamline the disembarkation process, giving passengers more time to visit our shops, our restaurants, and all of our amazing attractions. This would lead to increased spending and a greater economic benefit for our local businesses. Mr. Speaker, one of the most common complaints about cruise passengers is this perspective or perception that they are low income, low spending visitors. But that's simply not the case. It's not factual. The pre-pandemic 2019 biannual report of the Tourism Statistics and Trends produced by our own Department of Tourism states, and I want you guys to work and listen with me now, 38% of the cruise visitors that came to the Cayman Islands reported an annual household income between $100,000 per year and $150,000 per year. By way of comparison, 25% of the stayovers visitors fell in the same category. 25% reported an income between $150,000 and $200,000, Mr. Speaker. And for stayovers, it was 29%. 10% of our cruise passengers reported an income of over $200,000 to $300,000 per year. And for stayovers, it was 17%. The differences between the household incomes of visitors, stayover, and cruise is not that much different, Mr. Speaker, is my point. Simply put, the data is telling us that 73% of our cruise passengers make over $100,000 per year. So it's not that they don't have the money to spend. The issue is they don't have enough time on the island to spend it. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, the larger ships have a higher price tag, meaning it costs more to sail on them, and consequently, they carry passengers that have 20% more higher spending power. Unfortunately, these are the ships that are sailing past us because we don't have the facilities they need to embark and disembark their passengers. And if we don't build a pier and the years of decline continue, whatever ships that do visit more likely will be filled with lower spending passengers, because the trend is that everybody wants to be on the newer, bigger ships. Simple facts, not making it up. If we do decide to develop cruise berthing infrastructure, Mr. Speaker, passengers would have more time on the island and would be able to book multiple tours rather than just one, enjoy our cuisine that we make, visit more attractions, and purchase more items from our local vendors. This is particularly important for our small businesses, which rely on a steady stream of visitors to remain viable, to stay alive, to have a job, to feed their families. Cruise berthing would provide a boost to these businesses, ensuring that they can continue to thrive and keep their workers employed. Also, Mr. Speaker, if we had a pier, ships could even consider overnighting in our ports. I want us to think about that for a minute. Can you imagine what an uplift that could do to downtown Georgetown? You remember, maybe most of us in this room, I think, is old enough to remember when Georgetown used to be the liveliest place in this country. Now, after the sun sets, that's it. It's a ghost town. Maybe having a pier can be that one thing that we talk about, the revitalization of Georgetown. Mr. Speaker, I know you remember how we were like, because I know you used to like those fancy restaurants, not true? Mr. Speaker, I want to now turn my attention to some of the concerns the public have been voicing. I know many have asked the question, how can they vote on a referendum question without it being tied to a specific project? We've heard views like, I can't vote for it if I don't know what the cost of the project is going to be. Or, I support piers, but it depends on who will control the port once it's built. I've also heard, I believe we should have a pier, but I don't want it in Georgetown. Or, I'll vote yes, but I don't want to see it dredging up the coral reefs. And the last one I'm going to use as an example is, I support the building of a cruise pier, but I'm concerned it will add to the traffic problem downtown. Mr. Speaker, it is very important to note that in bringing up these concerns, it can easily be assumed that the public in general is in support of building a pier, once these concerns can be mitigated. Mr. Speaker, first off, I agree and I accept that they are all legitimate concerns. And it should be a priority for the next government, if the referendum returns with a yes, to ensure that these concerns are mitigated. And the good news is, Mr. Speaker, they all can be mitigated or reduced to a point of reasonable sacrifice. Most of the concerns raised by those who are reluctant to support or outright against the building of a pier are connected to 5 main subject areas, namely cost, ownership and controls of the ports, location, traffic, or environmental concerns. But, Mr. Speaker, before I break down the ways I strongly believe that those concerns can be resolved and or mitigated, it is important to note that those concerns have to do with the how it should be built and not if it should be built. And, Mr. Speaker, that is precisely why the government has approached the cruise questions and concerns in the way that we have, by not attaching it to a specific project, but rather by dealing with the fundamental question of whether we should build a pier or not. And, Mr. Speaker, if the people said no, it would have been a waste of money to put plans together before asking the people. Because, Mr. Speaker, the truth be told, though the question the people will have to decide on speaks to the building of a pier, it is really about whether they want to stay in the cruise business or not. That's the truth. Mr. Speaker, you may say, well, young Brian, how did you come to that conclusion? Well, and the best way that I can explain that, Mr. Speaker, is by using the analogy of a car. Just for one moment, let us think about the cruise industry as being a vehicle. And a vehicle is defined as an engineered mechanism with the purposes of getting its cargo from point A to point B. And it is made up of some very important parts, Mr. Speaker. You have the engine, you have the body of the car, you'll have the wheels, you'll have the exhaust system, and many other parts that we all can think about, right? But I'm sure that we would all agree that the most important part of a vehicle is the wheels. Because without them, it cannot do the fundamental purpose upon which it was built to do. And, Mr. Speaker, in respect to the future of the cruise industry and its evolving business models, a pier is equivalent to the wheels on a car. Eventually, the cruise business will not be able to operate without it. So we can debate what kind of car we should have. Should it be an expensive Cadillac or affordable Honda? Or we can debate about whether it should have environmentally friendly exhaust system controls on the emissions into the air, or debate on what size we want, big SUV or small little hatchback. But what we can no longer debate, Mr. Speaker, is whether we should have the wheels on the car. Because if we want to continue to be in the cruise business, we have to put the wheels on the car, or we will go nowhere. Mr. Speaker, let me take us back to the point I was going to earlier, which is how we can reduce, mitigate, or resolve the concerns I highlighted before, which all relate to one of 5 things: cost, ownership and control, location, traffic, and the environment. Starting first with the cost. And I think it's fair to say, Mr. Speaker, that nobody wants this country to build a pier that is overly expensive and unnecessary, and which costs the people hundreds of millions of dollars more than we need to. Continuing on with my analogy of a car, I don't think the people want some 24-inch rims with low-profile tires made by the most expensive car manufacturer in the world that you can find. I think the people will accept your standard rims and tires that allow your car to do what it was made to do: get from point A to point B. In my opinion, Mr. Speaker, standard wheels on the cruise industry vehicle equates to maybe just simply one pier with no upland development. It will meet the basic requirements to get our cruise guests on and off the ships in an efficient, safe way. And I know it can be done at an affordable price that does not burden the people with debt. Turning now to the concerns about who would own and control the pier if we decide to build one. Mr. Speaker, I think this is the easiest one to solve, to be honest with you, because that decision is really up to us. I am confident that no one wants our port to be owned or controlled by anyone other than us, the Caymanian people. Interestingly, though, ownership and control is also tied to our first concern, which is cost. And if we accept that we will keep it simple and inexpensive, then the ownership and control never even have to be an issue. Why do I say that? Here's why, Mr. Speaker, which I'm certain that you're fully aware. How we finance a project such as building a pier brings into question the controls of the cruise pier side of things. For example, if we want the people through the government to say, we cannot finance it ourselves and we want to allow an entity to finance it, that entity will most likely demand some securities of their investment. It's a normal thing in business, meaning that they will want to control the payments per head on passengers until the debt is paid back to that entity. But I say, Mr. Speaker, that control is only specific to the kind of financing model that we choose. I believe that we can create a local investment fund only for Caymanians to raise the monies necessary to build our own cruise berthing facility. This would not only allow the people to reap from their own benefits of their own infrastructure, but at the same time, they have the security of mind that they own it. Mr. Speaker, if the people say yes to a pier, that will be for the people to demand of the next government in terms of how they want the financing model to be done. Turning now to the traffic concerns, Mr. Speaker, I do accept that the current infrastructure and road systems make it difficult for vehicular road users when we have multiple ships in port. But much of the congestion is because we don't have a pier that allows the port to run more efficiently. If we had a pier, we could reduce a lot of the traffic associated with or caused by our cruise guests. Mr. Speaker, another point that will help with the traffic concerns is our National Roads Authority's road system plans that have been in the works from when your administration was in power, Mr. Speaker. And I know the new leader of opposition, you see how I wrote that into my speech? I knew you were going to be the leader of opposition. I had it in my speech already. I know the new leader of the opposition is well aware, being the former Minister of Roads, he knows about the plans to reroute traffic from Seafarers Way and also to connect Godfrey Nixon to South Church Street, creating links for cruise and port traffic, ultimately making a road system that goes around Georgetown. These plans are intended to allow the public to drive north to south without having to go through downtown area on busy cruise ship days. Right, Mr. Leader? Turning now to location. Are we part of your plans? Turning now to location, Mr. Speaker. And technically, a pier can be built anywhere in Grand Cayman. And the public have heard of the locations that it could be used at. We talked about it many times. And they also have talked about locations that should never be considered at all. There are so many factors that engineers would have to consider when deciding the best location for it to be, from the prevailing winds to depth of the waters, reef life, zoning of the area, economic and socioeconomic factors, just to name a few of the things that would need to be thought about. Mr. Speaker, if the people say yes in the referendum, I'm sure that it can be an easy, quick economic report advising where the best place for it to be to have a cruise pier. But, Mr. Speaker, with the hundreds of millions of dollars of investment already made around the current location to facilitate the industry, I do believe that aside from the wisdom of our forefathers telling us that the current location is the best place for it, I'm confident that that economic and environmental assessment would come back suggesting that the best thing for us to do is keep it where it is, in the natural harbor that is already have been established for port activity, and potentially also highlighting some of the damage. But, Mr. Speaker, again, let's decide whether we want it or not first. Moving it to another location could create more unforeseen problems. So it may prove to be better to just build it where it is, in an area that already has some damage, than to go somewhere else and damage a more virgin marine environment. And on that note regarding location, Mr. Speaker, I should add that if we, and when that time comes, if the people says yes in the referendum, modern engineering allows for so many different techniques that are designed to reduce environmental damage, such as building on pylons, which was a part of your project before. But we're going to get to that shortly. Mr. Speaker, as the years and years pass, more engineering solutions that are environmentally friendly are being developed. Mr. Speaker, turning now to the most sensitive area of concern, the environment. We have heard all of this before, so perhaps it is time for us to talk about the elephant in the room, because I recognize that there's some real concerns about the environmental impact on building that pier. And these concerns are valid, Mr. Speaker, and the government takes them seriously. We know that it is the beauty of our natural environment, above and below the waterline, that appeals to our visitors to keep coming back to the Cayman Islands. But, Mr. Speaker, natural beauty alone will not sustain our economy, or keep our people in jobs, or put food on their tables. And therefore, a balance has to be struck between environmental protection and economic sustainability. Mr. Speaker, I have had the honor on behalf of the good people of the Cayman Islands and the rest of the Caribbean to be the chairman of the Caribbean Tourism Organization for the past 2 years. And in doing so, I've had the opportunity to see many of the other Caribbean islands. Many of them are just as beautiful as the Cayman Islands, but not more beauty. Not more beautiful, definitely not. But because they have not invested in their infrastructure as much as we have, this can be seen reflected in their airports, their roads, their hotels, their ports, and their transportation, and in some respects, negatively impacts their beauty and convenience. And that's what the difference is with Cayman, because we've always been able to say that we've stayed ahead of the game in this respect. We got nice roads, we have a beautiful new airport, we have amazing hotels, our transportation system is efficient, and we are ranked in the top 3 in the Caribbean with those points. But when it comes to our port infrastructure, sadly, I can't say the same thing. Mr. Speaker, this government is committed to ensuring that if the people vote yes, and we have their permission to start looking at ways to build a pier, we will also be looking at every means possible to minimize environmental harm and protect our marine environment. I'm sure that every member of this honorable House, whether they support the pier or not, understands and agrees with the importance of preserving our natural heritage and resources for future generations to come. Mr. Speaker, the continued decline of our cruise tourism economy and its revenues will not only affect the Cayman jobs and businesses, it will also have a major effect on some of our most prized wildlife and attractions and artifacts. Now, I know that this must sound surprising to some, but let me explain by highlighting 3 entities that most of us don't think about on a regular basis that depends on the cruise passenger revenue for their survival. Firstly, the Cayman Islands Turtle Conservation Center, the place known for the research and conservation of our green sea turtle. The place also known for providing our national supply of our national dish. Mr. Speaker, it took $14.5 million last year to operate the Turtle Center. The revenue from cruise passengers contributed to $7.5 million, and the other $7 million was subsidized by the government. Mr. Speaker, this entity would be in some serious problems without cruise sector revenue. And honestly, some days I really worry about all of the Caymanians who work there when I think about the seriousness of the risk to our cruise industry without a pier. The other 2 entities, Mr. Speaker, are Pedro St. James, the location known as the birthplace of our democracy, and the Queen Elizabeth II Botanic Park, the home of the endemic blue iguana and most of our special flora and fauna, such as the beautiful Caymanian banana orchid. Both of these entities fall under the Cayman Islands National Attractions Authority and cost $3 million annually to operate. The government subsidizes these entities to the tune of $1.9 million, and the rest of the monies they need are funded for the operations come from tourism revenue. In other words, Mr. Speaker, these entities depend on visitation for their attractions for a third of their revenue. You see, Mr. Speaker, the effects of the decline in cruise tourism is far more reaching than many anticipate. And while we are addressing the elephant in the room, this might be also a good time for me to further elaborate on my personal journey in regard to this issue. I recall when the
Minister, I think the title you're looking for is the Road to Damascus Experience.
Thank you for your intervention, Mr. Speaker. I recall when the last cruise ship pier project was put forward by your progressive-led administration, Mr. Speaker. Like many in the community, I was vocal in my opposition to the project. Not because I opposed cruise tourism, but because I was against the idea of developing both cargo and cruise infrastructure together, and I know you remember that. And I honestly thought the cruise lines were bluffing when they spoke about not being willing to bring their ships here. I mean, how could they not? We are the Cayman Islands. We are the jewel of the Caribbean. They have to keep on coming. That's what I thought. Well, Mr. Speaker, here we are today, and I'm the Minister of Tourism dealing with almost 40% drop in those realities. Although those were my personal views at the time, I strongly believe that the people of this country deserve the opportunity to express their views on the matter. And it was for that reason that I supported the call for the referendum, believing that the people should decide on such a critical issue. And Mr. Speaker, I stand here today still with that view. And that is why I'm bringing this motion on behalf of the government and advocating for a referendum now. The people must be given the chance to have their say on this important national issue. It is a principle that I hold dear, and for as long as I have the privilege to be a representative of this country, I will stand by my belief that the voice of the people should guide the actions of any representatives and any government, especially on matters of national importance. Moving on, Mr. Speaker. I want to briefly address tourism at a macro level as a second pillar of our economy. As such, this government and every government that comes after has a responsibility to safeguard all sectors of this important industry, because the stayover sector and the cruise sector both are crucial to our economic well-being, and one cannot replace the other. While stayover tourism brings significant value to our economy, it is simply not realistic to expect that stayover arrivals can make up for the loss of the cruise sector. Both sectors complement each other, and both must be supported if we are to ensure a thriving tourism industry. Mr. Speaker, speaking on the effects of what is at risk if we lose the cruise tourism sector, let us briefly look at how the revenue from cruise passenger head tax is used to support everyday life in our society. Using 2023 as an example, the government collected $5.2 million in revenue from stayover and cruise visitors, which was directed to the Environmental Protection Fund. Now, I want to make sure that I clarify that that's not the total amount of money we collected for core government. This is just revenue we collected that was directed to the Environmental Protection Fund. Of this amount, 56%, or $2.9 million, came from the cruise sector via per passenger cost. This revenue, which piles up year after year after year to the point where we had almost $50 million in the Environmental Protection Fund, comes from cruise passengers too. This revenue that is used for acquisition and management of protected areas and for measures to protect and conserve protected species, their critical habitat, and for many environmental related programs. And I give you an example of some of them, Mr. Speaker. Buying land for the National Trust, conducting environmental impact studies, reef restoration projects, the project and protection of our endemic blue and rock iguana, to help pay for turtle-friendly lighting on our beaches, and the green iguana pest control, and many other programs, all come from monies from the cruise passengers. The government also receives $7.6 million, which went to the general revenue to help core government with their costs, that helps pay for all of those things we were talking about, our teachers, our seaman benefits, our police officers, our prison officers, our customs officers. The Port Authority itself also receives a sum of $3.1 million last year that was used to help pay for the cost of operations and their salaries. And I'm happy to say, as the Minister for Ports, that I think we're at 98% employment of Caymanians. To recap, Mr. Speaker, that adds up to $13.6 million collected in 2023, just from cruise passenger head tax alone. that support so many sectors in our community and in our economy. And this 13.6 is just a small portion of the 350 million left in our economy from cruise sector passengers each year. The point I'm trying to make, Mr. Speaker, is the revenue from cruise tourism helps this country much more than often realized. It is no joke or exaggeration to say that thousands of people's lives and livelihoods depend on the sustainability of this industry. Against all of these factors and realities, Mr. Speaker, the government has a duty to look ahead in the future and anticipate the challenges and take action to mitigate the risks before they hit us. Failing to provide the necessary infrastructure needed to support the cruise tourism industry would mean the potential loss of millions of dollars to core government, thousands of jobs lost from the workforce, hundreds of micro businesses, small businesses, medium-sized businesses closing down, and an unquantifiable amount of revenue lost in our economy. That's what it means, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we cannot afford to let the cruise sector dwindle to nothing over time. Nor can we gamble on the faint hope that cruise lines will continue to visit the Cayman Islands without having the necessary facilities to service them. Every day, they are proving otherwise by passing our shores. Mr. Speaker, I believe that it's important to recognize that this is not a new database. Matter of fact, I bet you're probably saying to yourself, for 80% of my remarks, I told you so. 90%. And truth is, Mr. Speaker, you'll be right. Mr. Speaker, if we look at the current makeup of our parliament, apart from those who are first-termers, virtually every member has been a part of an administration that have considered cruise pairs. It is an issue that has come up in every government for close to 25 years. Therefore, the question that I have is, how every one of those administrations, was every one of those administrations wrong? Have all of those years of discussion, research, careful consideration, and money spent in vain? And why has it taken a quarter of a century for us to make up our mind? Maybe, just maybe, it's because we've never given the people the right to choose, the right to tell us what they want. Well, Mr. Speaker, this minister, this government believe in our people. We believe that they can and will make the right decisions for themselves, for their families, and their environment, and their businesses, and the economy. We believe in the people. Mr. Speaker, it is evident that successive governments have recognized that a cruise pier is essential for safeguarding our cruise tourism sector. Because since the year 2000, I believe I'm correct in saying that every government elected had promises of a cruise port in their election manifesto or as a part of their delivery plans. All except one. This one. This administration. No, you can check my manifesto, it's none of it there. Now we find ourselves in a position where the decision cannot be postponed any longer. For over 2 decades, we have gone back and forth, spending millions of dollars and getting nowhere. Mr. Speaker, when this government took office in 2021, the then Premier and member from Newlands stated, and I quote, "The cruise port referendum is not an issue that is in this government's agenda for the rest of the term. Whatever happens with the cruise berthing referendum, it will be for another government that deals with that." End quote. We're here today in terms of a referendum, not quite as the member meant it at that time, but his words were quite, I've been practicing this word so long, Mr. Speaker, prophetic. You had my speech hour. Prophetic. His words were rather prophetic, nonetheless, because another government will have to be dealing with it, one way or the other, either with building a pier or preparing for the fallout of not building a pier. And let me tell any person out there who's thinking about running, dealing with the fallout will be a whole lot harder than building a pier.
Minister, just a moment. Members of the public in the gallery, I've let it go because the minister has been singing such a sweet song, but generally the rules preclude public displays of support or otherwise from the gallery. So if I can ask you to observe those rules going forward. There'll be a lot more debate over the course of this day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As well-intentioned as that statement was, and as much as we thought at the time that we were reflecting the people's wishes, the truth is, A, this is too important of an issue to put off any longer. And B, we will never truly know what the people's wishes are unless we ask them. Mr. Speaker, when you were the Premier and the leader of the Progressive-led government in 2017 administration, you were quoted in saying, and I quote, "As cruise ships grow in size, they will increasingly pass by Cayman on their way to other destinations that have the facilities needed to cope with their passengers. Visitor numbers in Cayman will fall, Caymanians will lose their jobs, and their businesses will fail." End quote. The passage of time have also proven you right, Mr. Speaker. As ships have grown in size, they are indeed passing us by en route to other destinations that can service their needs. Visitor numbers have fallen and continue to decline. Businesses on the waterfront that rely on cruise are facing a decline in their customer base to over 40%. And we risk seeing them close one after the other. The obvious question, Mr. Speaker, are we really going to wait until Caymanians start losing their jobs by the hundreds before we finally decide to take action? And so, Mr. Speaker, the motion before us today is a significant one because it's not just about whether we should put a big old concrete slab in the ocean, as they say. This motion is about protecting Caymanian jobs, safeguarding the economy, and ensuring that our tourism industry can thrive and prosper well into the future. But more importantly than that, it's about giving the people the opportunity to have their say on a national matter of importance. That is why the government is bringing this motion for a referendum, Mr. Speaker. So, when members vote on this motion here today, we're not voting for or against the building of a cruise berthing facility. We are voting to give the people the power to choose their destiny. Although we have stated publicly that we are in support of a pier in order to secure the future of our cruise tourism sector, it is for the people to decide whether they want it or not. I firmly believe that they have the wherewithal to make that decision. And this government have given our commitment that we will respect their views, whatever the outcome will be in the referendum. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Father of the House, I received many messages of people claiming to be hungry. So I believe that now would be a good time to take the luncheon adjournment. It is 1:30.
As long as you recognize that I have risen.
Yes, sir.
When we come back.
Sir. Yes, sir. We will now take the luncheon suspension until 2:30.